Welcome to the deep dive. We dig into the sources, pull out the key info, and lay it all out for you. Today, we're diving headfirst into the pressure cooker world of Formula One. It's a place where, well, careers can literally be made or broken in just a few races. And our focus today, it's one of the biggest stories bubbling away in the paddock, Red Bull Racing. They're still searching, relentlessly really, for Max Verstappen's 2026 teammate. I mean, this search has been going on for well over a year now. And it really boils down to two key figures right now. You've got Yuki Tsunoda fighting tooth and nail, basically, to keep his seat. And then there's the rising star, ISACK HADJAR. He's young, incredibly talented, and he's making what a lot of people are calling an irresistible case for that promotion. So this isn't just about lap times. It's about Red Bull's big picture strategy, their decisions, and, yeah, what some are calling their self-inflicted driver crisis.
Okay, so let's get into it. The basis for our deep dive today comes from a pretty detailed analysis we found originally from The Race, and it's titled Tsunoda Out of Time, What We Know About Red Bull's F1 Driver Plan.
So our mission here is simple. Cut through the noise, look at what's actually happening, and figure out what these crucial moments mean for both drivers and, for Red Bull's whole approach going forward.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? Because it's not just about the raw speed or the pressure on Tsunoda and HADJAR individually. It really shines a light on driver development, team stability, all within this incredibly cutthroat F1 environment. And it brings up a really interesting question, one for you listening to consider. If you were running Red Bull, how would you balance that? You've got proven results, maybe a bit inconsistent, versus this raw, exciting potential that's bursting through. Which factors would you actually prioritize for a team that's fighting for championships? The known quantity, maybe with flaws, or the unknown future star? It's a massive puzzle.
That's a great way to frame it. It really throws the pressure on these guys into sharp relief. So let's dive right into that pressure cooker with segment one, Yuki Tsunoda's uphill battle. Okay, so Yuki Tsunoda, his situation right now is, well, precarious is probably the word. We're not talking months. We're talking maybe just a handful of races left for him to really nail down that Red Bull seat. You hear the talk, in the paddock. Red Bull is definitely actively weighing up another driver change for 2026, still looking for that perfect partner for Max. The hope, apparently, inside the team is that Tsunoda just clicks. That he comes good, builds on that 9th place in Zandvoort. That finish broke a pointless streak, which was needed, but even that result was described as, well, slightly fortunate.
Exactly. And that context is so important, isn't it? A 9th place, yeah, it's points, it broke the drought, but for a Red Bull system driver, it's about how you get those points and can you do it again and again. It's about consistency. Red Bull doesn't just need occasional point scores, they need someone consistently up there pushing, contributing week in, week out, especially given their long-running struggle to find that solid number 2 driver alongside Max. It's been years, really.
Yeah, they haven't quite cracked that code since Ricciardo, maybe.
You could argue that, yeah. So Tsunoda's performance, it's not just his career on the line, it's directly tied to Red Bull's constructors' ambitions, their stability. That 9th place was a start, but it needs to be the beginning of something much, much bigger.
And that long-running struggle you mentioned, it leads us straight into this narrative of Red Bull's self-inflicted driver crisis. I mean, it feels like they've created this problem for themselves, doesn't it? The recent history is just turbulent. Think about it. Perez gets a new contract early 2024, then boom, he's dropped for Liam Lawson for 2025. Lawson gets just 2 races in 2025 before he's replaced by Tsunoda. It's just, wow.
It's dizzying. And these choices, these ill-fated decisions, as the source calls them, they've basically, arguably, made Red Bull a one-car team when it comes to consistently fighting at the very front with Max.
Yeah, just Verstappen carrying the load week after week.
Pretty much. It's this revolving door that doesn't seem to solve the fundamental problem. It just kind of keeps it spinning. And that instability, it has real costs.
Absolutely. And the impact of that churn, as you say, it echoes through the team. Look at Liam Lawson. He gets his shot, then he's deemed shockingly off the pace next to Max, and bang, immediate demotion.
Brutal. Just shows how high the stakes are, how little margin for error there is.
And while Tsunoda, okay, he has shown better performance than Lawson did in that brief stint, the numbers are still, well, 9 points in 13 events. That's the stat from our source.
Which, let's be honest, for a Red Bull-affiliated car, aiming for the top, it's just not enough. It's not the consistent contribution they need for the constructors' fight.
No way. It really underlines the depth of the crisis, doesn't it? It's not just finding a driver, it's finding the right driver who can handle the pressure, develop the car, and actually, score big points regularly.
And think about the resources they're spending on this constant evaluation, shuffling drivers. Resources that could be going into making the car even faster. It's a strategic drain.
That's a really good point. Now, amidst all this, there was a significant development for Tsunoda just before the summer break, this car specification reprieve. Red Bull updated his car, finally brought it more or less level with Max's on the major upgrades.
Yeah, particularly the floor, which is just, it's everything in these ground effect cars, right? It dictates so much of the downforce, the grip, the lap time.
Exactly. So this wasn't just a little tweak. It was a big deal, a chance to really see what he could do on a more level playing field.
And you have to say, giving him that updated spec was crucial. It was Red Bull basically saying, okay, here are the tools, show us what you've got, and the immediate effect. Our source says there was a clear improvement in one-lap pace.
Right, we saw that, didn't we? The analysis mentioned him being closer than Perez ever was to Verstappen at Spa in qualifying. Spa, that's a proper driver circuit.
And competitive on lap time in Hungary, too, another tricky track.
Yeah.
So it definitely suggested that, yeah, maybe some of his earlier struggles were down to the machinery difference.
Which lends some weight to his side of the story, for sure.
It absolutely does. It complicates the picture for Red Bull. It shows he can deliver pace when the equipment is there. So how much of the inconsistency before that was him, and how much was the car? That's the million-dollar question for them.
And this actually leads into Tsunoda making some pretty risky comments around the time of that upgrade. He apparently boldly claimed that Red Bull, and especially Marco, hadn't realized just how much the outdated spec was holding him back.
Oof. Yeah, saying that about Helmut Marko, it takes guts. Or maybe something else.
Right. Marco's known for being, let's say, a ruthless operator.
Yeah.
And the source mentions he already had some doubts about Tsunoda, so calling him out, even indirectly, that's playing with fire.
It really is. And you wonder, was it just honest frustration bubbling over? Did he maybe not realize quite how punchy that would sound in the F1 bubble?
The source leans towards him being honestly outspoken, perhaps without fully weighing the political implications.
Which, you can kind of respect the honesty, but in F1, yeah, risky. But to be fair, Red Bull did address the spec issue eventually. They gave him the upgrade, so maybe his point landed, even if the delivery was a bit blunt.
Perhaps. And there's another interesting angle here, the potential influence of Laurent McKee, the new team boss. There's this belief that part of Tsunoda's fresh chance has come via McKee.
Yeah, the timing is interesting, isn't it? McKee's first race in charge just happened to be the first race Tsunoda got more or less the same car spec as Verstappen.
Coincidence? Maybe. But probably not entirely.
Right. It could signal a shift, couldn't it? A new boss coming in, maybe looking at things with fresh eyes, perhaps listening to driver feedback differently than Horner might have. It could be that McKee saw the data, heard Tsunoda, and thought, okay, let's level the playing field and then make a judgment.
It certainly suggests a potential change in how things are run internally, maybe a bit more emphasis on giving drivers every chance before making those big calls.
Which could only be a good thing for Tsunoda, giving him that genuine second look.
Absolutely, but...
Yeah.
And there's always a but in F1, it seems. Despite getting the upgraded car, despite maybe getting a slightly more favorable ear from management, the Zandvoort weekend was, well, it was a big disappointment, a real missed opportunity for him.
Yeah, the source paints a pretty stark picture. He was clearly confused by a disappointing qualifying performance out in Q2.
Which was weird because qualifying Saturday, that had recently been his strong point, hadn't it?
Exactly. He apparently felt good in the car, felt he could control it better than ever, but the lap time just wasn't there. He was baffled. Half a second slower than Max in quali and slowest of all four Red Bull cars.
That's a big gap. Half a second is an eternity in F1 qualifying.
It really is. And that disconnect, feeling good, but being slow, that's worrying for a driver and for the engineers.
Yeah.
Then the race. Well, it didn't get much better.
He finished 9th, okay, but
Yeah.
only after a load of cars dropped out ahead of him.
Right, thanks to a flurry of retirements, as this source put it. And crucially, that final stint was a mess because he was stuck in the wrong throttle map.
Can you explain that a bit? What does that actually mean for the driver?
Basically, the throttle map controls how the engine delivers power when you press the accelerator. Being in the wrong one, especially one where he had no power until 40% throttle was applied, I mean, that's almost undrivable. You can't be smooth, you can't manage the tires properly, you can't get clean exits out of corners. It just completely compromises your pacing control.
McKee called it not a friendly setting, which sounds like an understatement.
Definitely. But here's the critical bit. It's not clear whose fault it was. Did the team mess up during the pit stop? Or did Tsunoda forget to reset it himself when he left the pits?
And that ambiguity is huge, right? Because if it's a team error, okay, that's one thing. If it's driver error under pressure, that's a different story entirely for Red Bull's assessment.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And it likely cost him a better result. The source suggests that, plus some bad luck with safety cars, probably stopped Tsunoda inheriting a result like 7th.
7th would have been decent, but still inherited, not really earned through sheer pace.
Exactly. So, the final take from Red Bull seems to be pretty harsh. No excuses. They couldn't find an obvious reason for his overall lack of pace across the weekend. And when you put that next to HADJAR's performance.
Yeah, HADJAR missing FP2 practice time and still putting in that marvelous execution to qualify 4th and finish 3rd. The contrast is just brutal for Tsunoda.
It really puts the pressure back squarely on his shoulders. Can he deliver consistently, even when things aren't perfect, even with the upgraded car? That's what Red Bull needs to see.
So despite Zandvoort, McKee apparently still feels Tsunoda's on a positive trend. A bit surprising, maybe.
Well, maybe looking at the bigger picture since the upgrade. But that positive feeling comes with strings attached. McKee has tasked Tsunoda with meeting some clear targets. Close the gap to Max, keep scoring points. Standard stuff, really.
But it's more than just hitting targets, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. The source is really clear on this. It won't just be about ticking those boxes, though. It'll be the manner in which Tsunoda does it. He has to be convincing. He can't crumble under the pressure like Lawson arguably did, or like other Red Bull juniors before him.
He needs to show that mental strength, that resilience.
Exactly. He needs to prove he belongs there week in, week out.
Yeah.
Because Red Bull's ideal scenario, it's still apparently for Tsunoda to suddenly find that next level, come good, and keep the seat next year.
That would give them stability, finally.
Right. Much needed stability. And it would also let HADJAR gain more experience, maybe at Racing Bull, so he's even more prepared when or if his time comes for the main team. It's the sensible, managed path.
But HADJAR himself is making that sensible path look less and less likely, isn't he?
He absolutely is. Which leads us perfectly into segment 2. The rising star ISACK HADJAR's irresistible ascent.
Okay, ISACK HADJAR. Zandvoort wasn't just a good weekend for him. It felt like a proper breakthrough, didn't it? A stunning run to 3rd, his first F1 podium. The source called his performance brilliant across both qualifying and the race.
It really was a statement performance. You felt the shift immediately. The calls to take him seriously as a Red Bull racing option, not just a junior driver, they just got amplified massively overnight.
And the reactions from the big bosses? Pretty telling. Max Verstappen, sharing the podium with him, called HADJAR's result fantastic.
High praise indeed from the benchmark driver on the grid. But even more significant maybe was Helmut Marko, the guy who makes these calls. He called HADJAR something special.
Wow, something special.
Yeah, and the source points out those are greater plaudits than Tsunoda's received, even while in the Red Bull seat. It's a bigger statement than Tsunoda's made so far. That comparison just hits you, doesn't it? It shows how much HADJAR shifted the needle with that one weekend.
It really does. And it's not just Zandvoort, is it? He's shown some seriously impressive traits all season. Our source highlights his very strong ability to bounce back quickly from setbacks. That's gold dust in F1.
Absolutely critical. You're going to have bad days, bad sessions. How you react is key. Think about his debut in Australia, crashes on the formation lap. Nightmare start. But he recovered mentally.
Monaco, too, right. Hit the wall twice in practice, which must shake your confidence massively there, but still went on to score his best result up to that point.
Incredible resilience. And then Zandvoort, missing almost all of second practice with an engine issue. On a track where practice time is vital and still qualifies 4th, finishes 3rd. That ability to just reset, refocus, and deliver under pressure, that's what top teams look for.
And Marko noticed that adaptability, too. He was apparently very impressed by his quick adaptation to almost every circuit this year. Said something like, after 3 laps, he's competitive.
Yeah, Marko loves that. He sees it as a sign of a truly top-level driver. That innate ability to just get in the car, understand it, understand the track, and be on the pace almost immediately. It's rare.
Marko also praised his outstanding confidence. There's that great story from Zandvoort.
Oh, yeah, the anecdote about him missing FP2, but apparently telling Marko midweek, don't worry, I know where the time is, I'll qualify top 5.
And then he goes and does it, qualifies 4th.
That's not just confidence. That's self-belief, backed up by a deep understanding. And it seems any lingering doubts about his temperament, maybe from earlier in his junior career, they've largely vanished. He's controlled his emotions, channeled them well.
So the picture emerging is fast, Mentally tough, adaptable, confident, resilient. Basically ticking all the boxes Red Bull wants.
Pretty much nails it, yeah. Which makes Marco's current narrative around him quite interesting because, let's be honest, Red Bull hadn't actually treated HADJAR like a definite superstar before this season really kicked off.
Right. He only got the F1 race seat because of the whole Perez-Lawson-Tsunoda shuffle, didn't he? It felt more like circumstance than a grand plan.
Exactly. But now, Marco's kind of revising the narrative a little bit, making these, as the source puts it, slightly generous claims. Things like, oh, we chose him. We knew he was something special all along. Or that he used to call him the little Alain Prost.
The little Prost.
Yeah. Which, you know, maybe he did, maybe he didn't. But the source makes a fair point. If they really knew he was this good all along, would his F1 graduation ever have been in doubt in the first place? Probably not.
Good point. It feels a bit like retroactive justification, maybe.
It could be seen that way, but what it definitely shows is just how much HADJAR's performances have forced Red Bull's hand. He's made himself undeniable. He's gone from being a good prospect they were developing to someone they have to consider for the top team, maybe sooner than they ever planned.
He's basically forced them to rewrite their own story about him.
In a way, yes. His talent is doing the talking so loudly that Red Bull seems genuinely won over now. And that idea of a Verstappen-HADJAR lineup, you can see why it seems quite tempting to them.
Which brings us neatly to the heart of the matter in segment 3. Red Bull's dilemma. It's this classic F1 balancing act. Stability versus grabbing that irresistible talent, and the decision time is looming.
It really is. Helmut Marko has put a date on it, hasn't he? He said a decision on the 2026 lineup will be made around the Mexican Grand Prix. That's the end of October.
So we're talking just a few more races, basically. The clock is seriously ticking.
It is. And while Laurent McKee, the team boss, is trying to calm things down a bit, saying they will not be a reaction to a single race result.
Sensible approach, you'd hope.
Yeah. Avoid those knee-jerk reactions. But, crucially, McKee also confirmed they won't wait until the very end of the season to decide.
Okay, so what does that tell us? After Mexico, there are only 4 races left in 2025.
Exactly. Which strongly suggests Red Bull has almost seen enough. They don't feel they need to give Tsunoda the entire rest of the season to make his case. It feels like there's a window these next few races up to Mexico, and that's probably it for him to really convince them.
So it's crunch time. What do you think they're looking for? Just points? Or something more?
Oh, it's got to be more than just scraping into the points. They need to see that gap to Max closing consistently, both in qualifying and race pace. They need to see clean weekends, minimal errors, and maybe, just maybe, a standout performance, something that makes them go, okay, this is the Yuki we believed in. It's about the quality, the consistency, the conviction he shows.
And just to be clear, this timeline doesn't necessarily mean Tsunoda gets dropped mid-season if the decision goes against him by Mexico?
Not necessarily, no. The source suggests it's more about the 2026 decision. Red Bull just won't give him that much time, i.e. the whole rest of the season, to convince it to keep him for next year.
Although, the source did throw in that little bit of speculation, didn't it, about a potential driver change this year?
Yeah, they floated the idea. Wouldn't be totally surprising if they put HADJAR in the Red Bull, Tsunoda out, maybe give Arvid Lindblad a debut at Racing Bulls.
Yeah.
All just to get a head start on 2026.
That would be pretty dramatic.
Extremely. And the source admits it's getting ahead of ourselves. But the fact it's even being mentioned, it just shows how knife-edge Tsunoda's position is and how ruthless Red Bull can be when they make up their minds.
It really highlights that whole dynamic, doesn't it? This tug of war. Red Bull wants the stability Tsunoda could offer if he improves. That's their ideal.
Yeah, the source reiterates that. Ideal scenarios for Tsunoda to suddenly come good and keep him in the seat next year. It brings stability, lets HADJAR develop steadily at Racing Bulls, gain experience, be fully ready for promotion later. It's a controlled, logical path.
But HADJAR is the spanner in the works for that tidy plan.
He's the massive spanner.
Yeah.
Because the other side of the coin is, does HADJAR just make too compelling a case to ignore, even with maybe a slightly patchy run of results before Zandvoort? The underlying talent, the adaptability, the confidence, it's shouting pretty loud.
That Verstappen-HADJAR pairing. You said it yourself, it seems tempting for them now.
Hugely tempting. So it's that classic dilemma. Stick with plan A, hope Tsunoda improves, gain stability. Or pivot to plan B, embrace the exciting potential of HADJAR now, even if it means more disruption in the short term.
And all this plays out under the media spotlight, of course, with the drivers right in the thick of it, like that press conference at Zandvoort.
Oh, yeah, the banter between Max and ISACK when they were asked about being teammates.
Verstappen saying it would be terrible. HADJAR saying, I don't want to be next to Max. I don't like him. All joking, obviously.
Good fun, yeah. But underneath the jokes, the question is real and it's intense. And when Karun Chandhok from Sky Sports directly asked Marco what HADJAR needs to do to get promoted.
Marco just dodged it, right? We'll decide that later.
Classic Marco deflection. Keep your cards close to your chest, manage expectations. But look, despite the dodging and the jokes, the source is right. Red Bull will have a hard time sidestepping the move as a talking point if these two drivers continue on their current trajectories.
If HADJAR keeps impressing and Tsunoda keeps struggling to consistently deliver, the pressure to make the change will just build and build.
Exactly. The momentum behind HADJAR is undeniable, and Tsunoda's window to respond is getting smaller. It's fascinating to watch, and this whole situation, this drama, why should you, listening, care about it?
Good question. Why does it matter beyond just F1 fans?
Well, because it's a perfect little case study, isn't it? Decision-making under intense pressure. Weighing up the known versus the unknown, experience versus raw potential, risk management, talent ID. These are themes that play out everywhere in business, in other sports, in any competitive field.
So, understanding how a top team like Red Bull navigates this, it tells us something broader about how success is pursued at the elite level.
I think so, yeah. It shows the complex factors involved in building a winning team, the tough choices you have to make about personnel when the stakes are incredibly high. It's a human drama, really, just playing out at incredible speed.
And that seems like a perfect place to wrap up our deep dive into this Red Bull driver dilemma. What a fascinating situation, really gets you thinking about the pressures and choices at the absolute peak of motorsport. So just to recap the key things we've dug into today, we've really seen Yuki Tsunoda facing, well, probably his final chance to cement that Red Bull seat right as ISACK HADJAR is making this incredibly strong, almost undeniable case for promotion. We talked about that contrast. Tsunoda's ongoing struggles for consistency, even with the car upgrades, versus HADJAR's amazing resilience, his confidence, his ability to bounce back from problems. And at the heart of it is Red Bull's big dilemma. Do they stick with Tsunoda, hoping for that stability they crave, or do they jump on the irresistible talent that HADJAR represents right now? It seems their own history of constant driver changes might actually be hindering their search for the very stability they want.
Exactly. And it leaves us with a really thought-provoking question, doesn't it? Thinking beyond just Red Bull. What does this whole situation tell us about F1 junior programs, maybe even about how success is defined in the sport? I mean, when something special like HADJAR can just burst onto the scene seemingly overnight, how much patience can a top team realistically afford to show developing talent? Especially when there's always potentially another star waiting just behind them. And what lessons can we take from Red Bull's self-inflicted driver crisis, as it's been called? Are there takeaways for talent management in any high-pressure environment, not just F1? Is it better to nurture the talent you have through thick and thin, build that loyalty? Or is the best path simply a ruthless, constant search for the next big thing, even if it means instability? Maybe the ultimate answer, the trick, is finding that perfect balance between those two approaches. And it's clear Red Bull is still very much trying to figure that out.
That's a fantastic point to ponder. And as you think about that, just remember, in Formula One, every single point, every qualifying lap, every tiny mistake or moment of brilliance, it can literally change a career path in an instant. It's high-stakes drama unfolding right before our eyes, and you've just had a real deep dive into the core of one of its biggest stories. For more deep dives like this one, make sure you follow or subscribe wherever you get your audio. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, keep thinking and keep exploring.